Hey y'all, Myra here, otherwise known as the Paranormal Chick, or TPC for short. So today we are going to talk about the true encounter of a Bigfoot. So this is famous. I'm sure you've heard about it. If not, don't worry, I'm going to read it to you in its entirety. This is William Rowe's 1957 sworn affidavit. I love this affidavit, and I believe it to be 100% credible because he went that extra step and filed it with the court. He swore, to the best of his knowledge, that this encounter is real and it happened. So without further ado, I'm going to get straight into it. 1. W. Rowe of the city of Edmonton in the province of Alberta makes an oath and says, 1. That the Exhibit A attached to this, my affidavit, is absolutely true and correct in all details. Sworn before me in the city of Edmonton, province of Alberta, this 26th day of August, A.D. 1957. Signed by William Rowe. Signed by W.H. Clark, Assistant Claims Agent Number DD2822. Exhibit A. Disclaimer before I begin. I am not here to offend anybody. The way this affidavit was written, you have to remember the time. It was in the 50s. So I am not trying to be discriminatory towards races, towards certain races. And how he explains it is just, I'm reading it word for word from his affidavit. So I will just put that out there. Exhibit A. Ever since I was a small boy back in the forest of Michigan, I have studied the lives and habits of wild animals. Later, when I supported my family in northern Alberta by hunting and trapping, I spent many hours just observing the wild things. They fascinated me. But the most incredible experience I ever had with a wild creature occurred near a little town called Titijanunkaish, British Columbia, about 80 miles west of Jasper, Alberta. I had been working on the highway near Titijanunkaish for about 2 years. In October 1955, I decided to climb 5 miles up Mika Mountain to an old deserted mine, just for something to do. I came in sight of a mine about 3 o'clock in the afternoon after an easy climb. I had just come out of a patch of low brush into a clearing when I saw what I thought was a grizzly bear. In the bush on the other side, I had shot a grizzly bear near the spot the year before. This one was only about 75 yards away, but I didn't want to shoot it, for I had no way of getting it out, so I sat down on the small rock and watched, my rifle in hand. I could see part of the animal's head and the top of one shoulder. A moment later, it raised up and stepped out into the opening. Then I saw it was not a bear. This, to the best of my recollection, is what the creature looked like and how it acted as it came across the clearing directly toward me. My first impression was of a huge man, about 6 feet tall, almost 3 feet wide, and probably weighing somewhere near 300 pounds. It was covered from head to foot with dark brown silver-tipped hair, but as it came closer, I saw by its breasts that it was female. And yet its torso was not curved like a female's. It was broad frame, was straight from shoulder to hip. Its arms were much thicker than a man's arms and longer, reaching almost to its knees. Its feet were broader proportionally than a man's, but about 5 inches wide at the front and tapering to much thinner heels. When it walked, it placed the heel of its foot down first, and I could see the gray-brown skin or hide on the soles of its feet. It came to the edge of the bush I was hiding, within 20 feet of me, and squatted down on its haunches. Reaching out its hands, it pulled the branches of bushes toward it and stripped the leaves with its teeth. Its lips curled flexibly around the leaves as it ate, as I was close enough to see that its teeth were white and even. That is a key feature. Most animals have fangs. Humans are known to have flat, broad teeth, right? That's the description he gave. The shape of this creature's head somewhat resembled a Negro's. The head was higher at the back than at the front. The nose was broad and flat. The lips and chin protruded further than its nose, but the hair that covered it, leaving it bare only the parts of its face around the mouth, nose, ears, made it resemble an animal as much as a human. None of this hair, even on the back of his head, was longer than an inch, and then on its face was much shorter. Its ears were shaped like a human's ears, but its eyes were small and black like a bear's, and its neck also was unhuman, thicker and shorter than any man's I had ever seen. Classic description of a Bigfoot. Again, remember, this is 1950s. I would never compare or say the word Negro. Very offensive, so I apologize, but I am just reading this word for word. As I watched this creature, I wondered if some movie company was making a film at this place, and that what I saw was an actor made up to look partially human and partially animal. But as I observed it more, I decided it would be impossible to fake such a specimen. Anyway, I learned later there was no such company near the area, nor in fact did anyone live up Mika Mountain according to the people who lived in Titijayan Kaish. Finally, the wild thing must have got my scent, for it looked directly at me through an opening in the brush. A look of amazement crossed its face. It looked so comical, at the moment I had to grin. Still in a crouched position, it backed up 3 or 4 short steps, then straightened up to its full height, and started to walk rapidly back the way it had come. For a moment, it watched me over its shoulder as it went, not exactly afraid, but as though it wanted no contact with anything strange. The thought came to me that if I shot it, I would possibly have a specimen of great interest to scientists the world over. I had heard stories of the Sasquatch, the great, giant, hairy Indians that lived in the legends of British Columbia Indians, and also may claim are still in fact alive today. Maybe this was Sasquatch, I told myself. I leveled my rifle. The creature was still walking rapidly away, again turning its head to look in my direction. I lowered the rifle. Although I have called the creature it, I felt now that it was a human being, and I knew I would never forgive myself if I killed it. Just as it came to the patch of brush, it threw its great head back and made a peculiar noise that seemed to be a half laugh and half language, and which I can only describe as kind of a whiny. Then it walked from the small brush into a stand of a lodgepole pine. I stepped out into the opening and looked across a small ridge just beyond the pine to see if I could see it again. It came out on the ridge a couple 100 yards away from me, tipped its head back again, and again emitted that only sound I heard it make. But what this half laugh, half language was meant to convey, I do not know. It disappeared then, and I never saw it again. I wanted to find out if it lived on vegetation entirely or ate meat as well. So I went down and looked for signs. I found it in 5 different places, and although I examined it thoroughly, I could find no hair or shells of bugs or insects, so I believe it was strictly vegetarian. I found one place where it had slept for a couple of nights under a tree. Now, the nights were cool up in the mountain at this time of the year, especially, and yet it had not used a fire. I found no sign that it possessed even the simplest of tools, nor a single companion while in this place. Whether this was Sasquatch, I do not know. It will always remain a mystery to me, unless another one is found. I hereby declare the above statement to be every part true to the best of my powers of observation and recollection. Signed, William Rowe. This was amazing. I love his recollection. I love the fact that he took it further and signed a legal document and filed it with the court to forever be on record. You hear about perjury, and most people are like, who cares? People probably lie to the courts all the time. Actually, perjury is pretty severe, and it could, depending on the situation, lead you and land you with a felony in prison doing prison time. So it's not something that you can take lightly. Affidavit should never be taken lightly and filed with the court. But for Mr. Rowe to go that extra step and file it and swear this is what he saw, this is what he encountered, amazing. I find this to be true and credible. That's my opinion, but tell me what you guys think. Take a look also. In the background, you saw William Rowe, And then you saw the picture that his daughter drew for him and what he remembered, what Sasquatch looked like. The descriptions he gave, the no neck, the arms below the knees, the hair, those are the classic recollections and the observations that we've seen in Bigfoot sightings. I love the fact how he mentioned the sole of the feet. That's how close he was. He saw the feet. You can't fake that. So, again, tell me what you think. Like, post, comment, repost, let me know. More to come.